right, good morning, everybody. It is great to see you. So I want to start off with just a quick question. Does anyone else here struggle with a bit of claustrophobia? You know, like the fear of just being smothered or confined, right? Like I know people who struggle with getting into elevators if there's more than one or two other people. Yeah, I'll pass. Go ahead and just keep on going. I know for me personally, I start to feel smothered from, when people are cold and they cover their face with a blanket, I'm like, no, I'll die. I need oxygen. You know, I just can't cover my family. It's too hot. I need to breathe. If I wear collars and ties, I'm like, it's cutting into my throat. Like, I just don't like that. I remember once I had 5 of these things from my mom when I was a 35-year-old, and I put all 5 of them on my hands, and I thought, oh, this will be funny, until it was, whatever. And I just remember being like, huh. And I couldn't get them off, and it was all fun and games. My stepdaddy took a picture of me. I'm like, this is the picture of genius. I'm like, and so eventually I just had to like rip them off, and I just remember like feeling very confined. And so we know what it feels like to be restrained or confined, and like we need oxygen. And so it makes sense that if we as a human race can struggle with that somewhere on the spectrum, that there are people that struggle with Christianity because it can feel like a straitjacket, which is like the epitome of just confinement. I mean, it's what they put people in to really restrain them. And so the question is Christianity, is our faith like a straitjacket? We are going through this series called Stepping Stones, where we take a look at common objections and questions that people, whether they're believers or not, sometimes think, maybe even barriers to people wanting to know Jesus, because like, I just can't get past this issue. And so we're looking at common issues that pop up. Week 1, we talked about truth, and can we know what truth is? And week 2, what about other religions? And week 3, we talked about, what about suffering and evil? Would a good God let bad things happen? And week 4, we talked about last week, does God even exist? And then today, we're going to tackle this topic, this objection that is hard for people, where they're like, look, it just feels like too many rules. I feel confined. Why does God need to give us so many rules? And so I want to explore today how to maybe have a conversation or meet the objections when someone basically thinks that following Jesus is a drag. And so let's call out some of the obvious reasons why it feels that way. Because if we're going to give an honest intellectual answer, we have to treat the topic fairly. I think one reason that people feel that Christianity can have rules or feel like it's a bit exclusionary is because, well, Christianity claims to have truth in Jesus. I mean, Jesus himself, we didn't make this up. He says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And that can feel exclusionary. That can feel like, well, there's only one way. And it's not very PC in today's world. Well, that's pretty closed-minded, Jesus. I mean, one way, really? Because in our culture, everyone gets a trophy. Everyone's equal, is the same, and everyone's opinion is truthful. There's your truth and my truth, and they're all equal. We kind of move that way as a culture, and it might even come from a noble place of saying, look, we just want to give everyone respect, but it can also be very dangerous, because when all things are true, then like almost nothing is actually true. Not everything is the same. Not everything is perfectly equal. I mean, if everything was perfectly equal and everyone lived their truth, you'd have no problem letting someone on death row babysit your kids, because they'd be like, I really am fine. I lived by my truth. No, I'm going to say, no, you can't watch my kids. And so there is a fair aspect to Christianity. Does have an exclusive claim. They're not wrong with that. Number 2 reason that I think that people have a problem or could feel like Christianity could feel like a straitjacket is that Christianity has a history of being loud about what we're against. Let's just be honest. We can get really loud, and sometimes louder on the stuff we're against instead of what we're for. And sometimes, in my opinion, it's done right, but oftentimes it's not done right. If you were to ask, we'll say outsiders, people outside of the family of God, hey, what do you think about Christians? What are we against? They're like, oh, you're against Disney and abortion, you're calling out what's immoral, and you're trying to legislate morality. And the truth is, they wouldn't be wrong. They'd be able to show plenty of evidence where we're very loud about what we're against. So that's probably reason number 2, it feels like a straitjacket to them. Number 3, Christians seem to have moral boundaries, rules that we follow, part of our culture, if you will, calls to be sexually pure, saving yourself till marriage, or not cursing. We go to church, we have a code of conduct, especially when it comes to how we treat one another. To an outsider, you might look and go, well, okay, Christian, you probably do these things and say these things. And are they wrong? No, they're not wrong. So the question is Christianity a straitjacket? I think what people are really wondering is, why all the rules? Why all these things? Why do you do these things? I mean, I don't want rules. That's sort of the human nature. Even for us Christians, we know that. We don't want rules. I mean, rules are for kids in school or for bosses on employees or sports and games. Why does an infinite God need us to follow rules? It feels constricting. It feels unnecessary, like wearing a straitjacket. So I would say to the outsider looking in, I can see why it feels like a straitjacket. I don't just dismiss them and go, you're wrong and dumb. No, they're right-ish, and they deserve an accurate explanation. So here's the thing, though. I'm not here to convince anyone that wonders about why are there all the rules. I'm not going to try to convince them that there are no rules. In fact, I'm going to say there are rules, but is that wrong? I'm going to push it back onto them. My hope is to convince them that, look, you follow rules too. My contention is that I want to follow a good God with good rules. Everyone follows rules, but what rules are you following? And here's the thing I would tell that person, that God's rules on us aren't meant to restrict us. They're meant to actually free us from something. That's why they're there. I want to just camp on Psalm 19 for a minute and take a look at what the Hebrew writers thought about God's law. I mean, when you follow a set of rules in life, you're hoping that they're good and lead you to good. And the outlook of the writer here is saying, man, the only rules that I can really find that are good for me are from God. They're not meant to confine us. They're meant to set us free to live a better way. Psalm 19 says this, the law of the Lord is perfect. It gives us new life. His teachings last forever. Personally, I love that one because I feel like the rules to life change like every 5 minutes, right? This is right. Well, now it's wrong, and it just is hard to keep up with. But God's teachings last forever, and they give wisdom to the ordinary people. I'm very ordinary, and now I can feel a little wiser. The Lord's instruction is right. It makes our hearts glad. His commands shine brightly, and they give us light. Worshiping the Lord is sacred, and he will always be worshiped. All of his decisions are correct and fair. They're worth more than the finest gold and are sweeter than honey from a honeycomb. Have you ever thought about that? And for those of us that follow Jesus, I'm like, man, I'm just grateful that God gives me that plumb line. It's worth more than gold. It's worth more than Ruth's Chris Steakhouse or honey. It is the best. By your teachings, Lord, I am warned. By obeying them, I am greatly rewarded. None of us know our faults. Forgive me when I sin without knowing it. Don't let me do wrong on purpose, Lord, or let sin have control over my life. Then I will be innocent and not guilty of some terrible fault. Let my words and my thoughts be pleasing to you, Lord, because you are my mighty rock and my protector. The response to the straitjacket question should be, no, I don't feel restricted when I follow Jesus. I don't feel like that following Jesus is restrictive or feeling like a straitjacket. For me, it feels like I'm finally set free and I can remove the real straitjacket that this world puts on me, that sin puts on me. That's where the real straitjacket is. But I am set free would be my response, and then I would hope the conversation would progress from there. And when you ask me, and I've had people ask me, like, doesn't it just feel like restrictive that you got to follow these rules for Jesus? And I'm like, man, I don't know, it's sort of like asking me, like, doesn't it feel restrictive being married to your wife? And I'd be like, no. And if she was sitting here, I'd be like, no, that is not how it feels. But am I restricted in being married to my wife? And she would quickly go, yes. Can I go look at anything or anyone that I want? No. Can I go do anything that I want? No. Right? I can't just whatever pops into my head say, okay, hey, she's younger, newer model, kind of, that's not appropriate, and that's not okay. Am I restricted in that sense? Yes, but is that a burden on me? No. But I am restricted. But in restricting myself, it's important to realize that by restricting here, I'm able to be free to experience something better and new over here. A partnership, a companionship. I can experience parenting with Jody. I can experience love and forgiveness in unique and awesome ways, and sacrificial love, unique blessings, someone to play board games with, someone that'll laugh at my stupid dad jokes, right, and think I'm the funniest guy ever, and I'm not. I get to experience something because I am willing to restrict something over here. I'm set free to do something good. And the truth is, every decision to have freedom in one area absolutely means another area is restricted. That's what I would say to the person. And I'd say, you do the same thing. Mine is just a better set of rules. I mean, if you want to learn piano, you are free to learn piano, but it will restrict your time and energy. There's a cost analysis that has to be done. And when the topic of being restricted does come up with people, I usually lovingly, gently get them to realize that they do the exact same thing. Does God or even churches have standards for their communities? Yes. And they might say, oh, well, that's really judgmental. And I go, okay, well, let me ask you then, lovingly. Can I be a leader in a boating club if I don't own a boat, don't like the water, and have never been in a boat? No, I wouldn't be a very good one. They'd be like, you probably shouldn't lead. And I'd be, gasp, that is so judgmental and exclusionary. But then just go a little bit further. Can I be in your PTA if I have no kids, I live out of town, and I have a slight criminal record? You'd be like, yeah, no, thanks, but no thanks. I mean, go to the extreme. Can I be like in an organization or like the head of an organization if I'm pro-life, but this organization is a pro-choice organization? They're probably going to say, thanks, but no thanks. We don't want you leading us. And I'd be like, well, hold on now. That's very exclusionary. I wouldn't be accepted there. But the truth is that everything from HOAs to chat rooms to political parties, countries, clubs, hobby groups, sports of all kinds have written and unwritten rules. I mean, baseball, every other day I'm seeing some new thing, and this guy broke the unwritten rule of baseball. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We all live by sets of rules would be what I would want to pose to the person. I'd like to point out and make the argument to the person that the entire world lives in a straitjacket, if Christianity does. I think their straitjacket is tighter and true in slavery, where my rules set me free, is how I would explain it. But everyone has rules. The question isn't, are there rules? The question is, whose rules should we follow? Naturally, to the non-believer, I'd make the case that some rules are meant to enslave, others are meant to set free. The world's rules enslave, especially to sin, but Jesus' rules set you free, and Scripture points to this pretty clearly in Romans 6. It says, don't you know that when you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one you obey, whether you're slaves to sin, which leads to death, or to obedience, which leads to righteousness. But thanks be to God that though you used to be slaves to sin, you have come to obey from your heart the pattern of teaching that has now claimed your allegiance. You have been set free from sin and have become slaves to righteousness. You're a slave no matter what. I would contend that being a slave to the Lord that showed that he's good to me and wants what's good for me is better than being a slave to this world that just wants to harm me and get stuff out of me. I mean, we either follow sin's rules that follow, habits and teachings of greed and pride and riches and importance and lust and addiction and hate, or righteousness rules, God's rules that promote love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and the rest. And usually who I'm dealing with at this point, if I'm in a conversation with someone, isn't the staunch atheist, because they'd be like, I don't care about any of this. There is no God. There is no morality. Okay, sermon 1, we go back to truth, and sermon 2, does God exist, and go down that route. They're not usually entertaining this. This is a person that falls more in the category of like, I want to believe, I just don't want to jump ship fully. I mean, I don't want to join a pyramid scheme on accident. I want to be duped and follow a bunch of lame rules, figure out it's wrong, and then 3 months later do it again. I just want to be really sure. And honestly, I just don't want to give up that choice that I have, that rebellious heart that we have. We don't understand, usually, when I'm talking to someone, they don't understand why God would even have these rules. And so this next clarification that I want to share, I think helps diffuse that tension a little bit. Because likely at some point, if you're talking to anyone, we all know that either they or someone they know has been deeply hurt by the church or someone in the church, right? Many of us have had that experience. And so I might tackle the topic like this. I might ask that person, I say, okay, you're clearly at least interested in having the topic. You're just wrestling with surrendering and whose rules to follow. So let me ask you this. Are there rules in a club? A golf club, country club, a biker club, sports club. I mean, the bunco ladies here, they have rules for their club. They get all kinds of crazy. Are there rules in a club? And the answer is yes. Okay, let's say you're in my family. Are there rules when you're in my family? My daughters would be like, yes. Okay, but is there a difference between club rules and family rules? And you're like, the way you're asking tells me yes, but I don't know why yet. Well, it's pretty easy. What's the difference? Well, club rules you follow the rules to get into or stay in the club, like an entrance exam, and that's how you maintain it. You follow the rules to get into or stay in the club. But family rules are there because you're already in the family. You're already in, and now you get to follow the rules. One of these, you have to follow the rules to maintain something. The other, you get to follow the rules because you're already part of something. That's the difference that I try to make with people. We don't earn anything. We just get to walk with God in this set of rules. We're free to do this. But here's the thing. To outsiders, our family rules can be mistaken for club rules. They can look at us doing all these things and be like, oh, that's the entrance exam? That's the entrance fee? That's what I got to do? And we're like, no, that's not how this works. And sometimes it's the fault of the outsider looking in, going, oh, well, that's what you got to do. I'm out. And it's their fault for assuming. But I have to also say, since, I'm shepherding our family to a degree here, is that sometimes it's our fault because we accidentally make a mistake. And our mistake is this, is that we've tried to apply family rules to outsiders without them having a relationship with God. We try to apply family rules without a relationship. And you might be like, well, what does relationship have to do with this? And relationship has everything to do with this. If you're in my family and you're following the rules, my relationship with my kids really matters. My kids love listening to me because, well, I say that a little loosely. My kids tolerate listening to me because I've proven that I love them beyond all shadow of a doubt. They know that I love them. Even when I ask them to do hard things, they trust that what I have for them is good to do, even if they don't understand it. But through it all, even through the hard times of listening, obeying, they're getting the hugs and love and encouragement and cuddles to know, I'm with you, I love you, this is good, even if you don't understand it. But what if you gave my daughters the same set of rules but said, now you don't have daddy to hug and love and kiss and cuddle and nurture you? Well, they're probably going to just wake up one day, why am I doing this? And they're going to fail, and they're going to be frustrated, and they're going to be confused. But us looking would be like, I'm not confused. They don't have a daddy loving them through it. Yet we do the same thing when we accidentally tell people, follow the rules of the family without a relationship with the daddy. And we're shocked that they can't keep going. And so when we put it that way, it should open our eyes a little bit that we need to be careful not to accidentally force people into doing the very thing that we oppose most in our faith, which is creating a works-based religion follower. When someone asks us if we earn heaven or if good works can save us, our answer is an emphatic no. If you didn't know, that's the answer. Can we earn Jesus? Can we earn heaven? Light's going out, sorry. And so the answer is no, we can't. Only Jesus' good works can do that. We're saved by grace through faith because of Jesus' good works, not ours. If you didn't know that, that's how this works. Yet sometimes what we can do when we talk to our outside friends that don't get it all, we'll say, man, they need Jesus. And it starts with that. And that is true. I don't know why I always have that accent, but it happens, right? You need Jesus. But then when they actually ask for help, I've seen this happen where we'll jump right to the behavior modification. You know what you need to stop doing? You need to stop drinking. You need to stop cursing. I get like the Southern lady accent. I don't know why. We just go with it. Stop drinking, stop cursing, stop cheating, stop lying. All the stops. All the stops in the Bible, y'all need to stop. And then here's what you need to start doing. You need to get yourself to church. You need to start working harder, being patient, start forgiving, being kind. And then when they fail, we're shocked. Well, I didn't want it enough. And we skipped the relationship with Jesus part. And that's the most important part. What we're accidentally doing is teaching them that they're saved by works. And we can't do that. These works that we do aren't meant to save people. They're meant to be done by God's children, people already in a relationship with God thanks to Jesus and what he did on the cross. I'm going to read these next verses about Jesus, and I want us to look at which came first, God's works or our works. John 1, 9 through 12 says, the true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. Not because of what we did. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. Talking about Jesus. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed, not did anything, but believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Now you're in the family. By only believing, not doing, you have the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. God provides a way for us first to become children, and then we get to do his good works as loving, obedient children to God. And this didn't just change with Jesus in the New Testament. I've heard some people make that argument where it's like, yeah, but that's New Testament. What about the God of the Old Testament who's all about the rules? I mean, Nick, you forget about the 10 Commandments. Every little Jewish boy and girl and Christian boy and girl, that flannel graph, I had to learn them 1 through 10. Boom, I even learned songs about them rules. Okay, well, I mean, go to the 10 Commandments rules for just a second and go just a little bit behind the 10 Commandments. Where were God's people just before Moses went to the top of Mount Sinai and got the 10 Commandments? They were in Egypt, and what was their status? They were slaves. They were enslaved, and God needed to save his people. Before he asked anything of them, he saved them. Sends Moses, 10 plagues, Passover, angel of death. Then they're being led out of Egypt because Pharaoh's like, get out of here. We don't like this stuff. Parts the Red Sea, leads the people by pillars of fire and smoke. They finally get out into the wilderness, free of Egypt. They're out of slavery. They're saved. And then they're given the rules. You see the order there? All the saving is done first. Then we get the rules. The relationship in saving is always established before the rules. And healthy rules spring from healthy relationship. And back to the non-believer, the relationship needs to be explained and established first. Because when we try and put the burden of just, hey, here's the family rules, you need to do works, we do know that James 2:17 says that faith without works is dead, but we also have to remember that Isaiah says that any works without faith is pointless and is just filthy rags. The word is menstrual rags. When we try to say, look at the good work I did without faith, God's like, that means nothing to me. It starts with me and you, and then we get to what needs to be done. And at this point in conversations with people, I get the tried and true tactic of the deflection. We talked about this in either the first or second week. The woman at the well, when Jesus confronts her, and she's like, ooh, he's getting too real. It's getting too close. Deflect, question. And I think that we can still do this today. When I talk about following Jesus, it can be common for people to bring up some concerns about Christianity. And I've heard this one, and this is a common one, which is why I want to bring it up. I've heard people be like, yeah, I get that, but when you say rules, I feel like what you're trying to do is indoctrinate people, and you're trying to change the cultures of people, and you're trying to like take over the planet. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? I think some people get nervous that we expect all nations and people to follow the exact same rules and to get rid of their culture and their identity. And I go, no, actually. Would it surprise you to know that Christianity is one of the most accepting faiths of other people's cultures? I mean, I've heard people actually say things like, isn't Christianity just an excuse to westernize or to Europeanize the whole world? And I usually say, like, you might think that, but that's just historically and numerically not true. In his book, Whose Religion is Christianity, by Layman Sané, a French author, he writes this. 2 case studies are instructive. In 1900, Christians comprised 9% of the African population and were outnumbered by Muslims 4-1. Today, Christians comprise 44% of the population. In the 1960s, passed Muslims in number. This explosive growth is now beginning in China. Christianity is growing not only among peasantry, but also among the social and cultural establishment, including the Communist Party. At the current rate of growth, within 30 years, Christians will constitute 30% of the Chinese population of the Chinese population of 1.5 billion. 30% of 1.5 billion is going to put them on pace to have more Christians in their nation than we have people, by the way. How could this happen, though? I mean, our religion is so exclusive, we need to Americanize them or Westernize them. That's just not true. Our faith is not exclusive because of its rules. Our faith, hold your head high, fellow believers, that our faith is not exclusionary. It's actually very inviting to people, no matter where they're at. We're not required to get rid of all of who we are just to be redeemed by Jesus. Not to change who you are, but to change whose you are. I am who I am, but now I belong to Jesus. Our motive for why we do what we do is what changes, no matter what color or nation, tribe or tongue we belong to. Now we're no longer slaves to our habits or our culture or our nationality or our skin color or our past. And this same author I read a minute ago, he also writes about why following Jesus is so attractive to many cultures. How is it growing in these other natures? Why is it so attractive? And he writes a ton of good things, but one of my favorite sections here, he writes this. When Africans become Christians, their Africanness is converted, completed, resolved, not replaced with Europeanness or something else. They become a complete version of who they are. They don't have to pretend to be American or something else. Christ redeems who they are, where they're at. And Tim Keller writes in his book, The Reason for God, he writes, the Bible directs Christians to unite in acts of musical praise, but it doesn't prescribe the meter, rhythm, level of emotional expressiveness, or instrumentation. All this is left to be culturally expressed in a variety of ways. Contrary to popular opinion, then, Christianity is not a Western religion that destroys local cultures. Rather, Christianity has taken more culturally diverse forms than any other faiths. I won't get into naming other ones, but for some of the other ones, it's like, no, this is how you'll look and act and pray, and this is exactly how you do it. There's only one way. Christianity, however, has taken on many colors and flavors, but still one doctrine of Jesus saves. Christianity has deep layers of insight from the Hebrews, from the Greeks, from European cultures. And over the next 100 years, it'll be even more shaped by Africa, Latin America, and Asia. It's because it might just be true that all people are God's children. And this is a fulfillment of Scripture when the Apostle Paul, he writes in Ephesians chapter 2, he's talking about two groups of people. He's talking about Jews and Gentiles. Gentiles would be literally everyone not Jewish. And he's talking about their separation and how they'll come together. For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations. His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity out of the two, thus making peace, and in one body to reconcile both of them to God through the cross, by which he put to death their hostility. And this, we get even more glimpse in the future in Revelation 7:9 of what it looks like. In the vision given to John, this is what he sees. After this, I looked, and behold, this is up in heaven, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages. He does not say they all became one, indistinct from one another. He's saying they still maintained their identity, but even more so their identity is in something higher. Of people of all tribes, peoples, and languages standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes with palm branches in their hands. Those tribes and peoples and tongues did not lose themselves or disappear. They were simply brought together, not separated by their differences, but united in their equal need for a Savior. Not meant to look the same, but meant to worship the same Lord. And so usually at this part in the conversation that's organically gotten here, you hit the part to where people are like, man, you've hit all my deflections. The truth is, I just don't want to follow more rules. Rules feel oppressive. And even still, I sometimes get people to just admit that they don't want to follow rules because they don't like rules. And I usually use some analogy that goes something like this. I'm like, I know, who likes following rules? But here's the thing. You've had a new car in your life, likely, or you understand the concept of owning a car. Do you put gas in it? Yeah. Do you need to? Well, if I want to go, I'm like, that's right. Can I put sugar in the tank? No. I'm like, that's oppressive. What if I want to put sugar in my tank? I mean, you got to put new oil in it. You got to keep that up. You should put air in the tires unless you're a 16-year-old boy and you just forget and go on flat tires. But, whatever. But you have rules when you have a new car. And in the same way, God has rules and commands, not to tell us who's going to hell and who's not. He's simply inviting you into a right relationship with him that shows you how you were made and how to operate and how to run at peak efficiency, that puts a smile on your face, or at least joy in your heart, and puts a smile on your Heavenly Father's face. That's what he's inviting you to. It's not to oppress you, it's to invite you. And when you experience his heart and his ways, you want more. I don't know how to prove that to you other than to invite you, if you're not there, to experience it yourself. He'll show you. But is it hard and difficult sometimes? To my friends, they're like, man, those rules just seem too hard. That one rule in particular, I don't know if I can do that. And I say, I get that. Don't start with the rule, though. Start with the relationship. But are some of God's rules sometimes difficult or hard? Absolutely. But you know what also is harsh and scary and confusing? Well, if anyone has ever had a kid and you had a kid start running out into the street, do you stop and reason with them like, hey, little guy, I need you to not run into the traffic and die, please? No, it looks more like this. Hey, what are you doing? The 4-foot fly through the air. Like, ow, that hurt. I don't know why you did it. I'm scared, and I didn't like it. Don't care. Why'd you do that? Because I love you. There are rules because I love you. Rules come from proper relationship, healthy relationship. God's instructions on how to live and follow him is not an act of cruelty. It's him warning us not to step out into traffic or step into traps and become re-enslaved to something we've already been set free from, is what I would explain to my friends that don't get it. God wants to set us free and enjoy him and this creation and to be part of the inviting others into the knowing him process. But sometimes we can end up like the fish that has a whole ocean to swim in. Has anyone ever like swam and you're looking down and you're like, I feel like I'm flying? You know, I mean, if I have a superpower, flying would be one, but when you're in water floating, you feel, especially when you're in the ocean, you're looking way down. If you're not afraid of getting eaten by a shark, you're like, I am flying right now. And they can go up, down, left, right. They can go look at coral. They can probably go talk to whales like in Finding Nemo. Like fish have it good unless they get caught and eaten. But that's a different story. For the most part, they have a whole ocean to go explore. Yet what about the fish that just stares up on land and is like, I want to go up there. But, you know, Daddy Fish explains, like, if you go up there, you'll die. You're not meant to breathe up there. That place is not for you. It's out of your design. But I want to be part of your world. That movie is all about rebellion. It is banned in my house. Not Disney at all, just Little Mermaid. She's a bad kid. But ever since the garden, Satan has been tempting us to do things our way, to listen to our own rules, to make ourselves our own little gods, and to do what is right in our own eyes. But God has always tried to get us to understand that we're meant to be in a right relationship with him and to follow him. And sometimes I've heard people say, okay, you keep on saying this word relationship, but I don't think you mean what it means. And I might ask them, well, what do you mean? Like, why does the word relationship bother you? And they say, well, because it takes two to tango. Any relationship, romantic, friend, vocational relationship, it takes two people. Both parties have to say, if we're going to be in a relationship, I need to adjust to you. I need to change for you. I need to interact with you, a back and forth. And at first glance, to the outsider looking at us, they might not see this. It can come up and it can easily, to the outsider looking at us, and if you're not used to church culture or been around, you might experience this. You look at us and you go, this feels like a one-way transaction. God sits up on his throne being like, worship me, my minions. And you all show up to church and you do the stuff and you're really nice and you say these things and don't say these things. This feels very one-sided. And I would say to that person, in all fairness, you're catching a straw hole vision of what we do and why we do it. And everything, when looked through with only partial view, could look way skewed and way wrong, and you need a bigger view. I mean, through a straw hole view, a skydiver could look like he's committing suicide. You're like, what did that guy just do? And if you don't know context of what he was doing or why he's doing it, you're like, well, that was awful. Baptism would look like churches are just drowning people every few Sundays. You're like, why are they doing that? I mean, at a football game, it could look like pure worship when people are like, yes! Although that one might be accurate. There might be some true worship going on, but that's a different sermon. Surely this thing that Christians have with God is a one-way relationship, is ultimately what people are saying. This feels very one-way. And I would say that's wrong. Do we adjust to God in the relationship? I would say yes. That is the call of the Christian, to ask our hearts to be aligned with God. But the fair question, what they're really asking then when they talk about relationship is, does God adjust to us? How come I don't see God adjusting to you? I would say, well, then you're missing it. I mean, do I think God adjusted to us? I'd say yes. You know, like when he saw his greatest creation in all the world, the only thing that is technically made in his image, suffering and dying and heading to eternal death because of the sinful mess that they got themselves into, he didn't just sit back and go, well, that was fun. Good luck with that, y'all. He became a human. He adjusted the relationship. He changed. He met us where we were at. He came down and became a human. He lived a perfect life. I mean, he only humbled himself and, washed his disciples' feet. He healed people. He redeemed people. He loved people. He prayed for his enemies up until the point of death. He loved and reached out to every type of human that there was, the possessed, the sick, the poor, the rich, the powerful, the powerless, the sexually immoral, the super religious, the men, the women, the children, and then he died for them, each and every one of them that would desire to have this free gift and entrance into a relationship with him, to follow him. And you want to talk about wearing a straitjacket and feeling limited, try being the creator of the universe and then having to go through diapers. Jesus put on flesh and limited himself for you and me. In the most profound way, God has said to us in Jesus, I will adjust to you. I will change for you. I will serve you, though it means sacrifice for me. I mean, I remember falling in love with my now wife, my then girlfriend, Jody. I mean, I still just feel head over heels for her. I want to please her. I want to love her. I live to see her smile and know that she feels loved and secure and served and honored and adored. And that is my command as her husband, so that she sees Jesus in me. But especially when we're younger, and even now still, when you're in love and you're having those moments of high, you want to please the other person. You don't want to wait for the person to ask you to do something. You just seek out ooh, I know this is really going to bless them, and I can't wait to see their face when they see this thing. I want to express my love, and I want to bring them some amount of pleasure, even if it costs me time or money. You get into this place where you're just like, man, your wish is my command. And if someone in that moment goes, yeah, but Nick, doesn't that feel oppressive? I'm like, no, it doesn't feel oppressive. Absolutely not. But from the outside, from the straw hole viewers of that, and I had those in high school, Jody and I being high school sweethearts, you know what phrases that I got. Look at Nick. Ooh, he's got it bad. Right? Look at her leading him around by the nose. Just follow me, buddy. And to that person, it could look, the straw hole viewer could look like, I'm just blindly doing this thing. But to me, I'm like, no, I love her, and it feels like heaven. And for the Christian, it's the same, except better with Jesus, because the analogies of our love break down because we're not perfect. But with Jesus, it's better. Does loving Jesus constrain me? Sometimes, yes. Does that constraining also free me from so many other things in this world, though? Yes. But once you realize how Jesus changed and changes for you and gave himself up for you, you aren't afraid of giving up your fake freedom and finding real freedom in him. Anyways, that's some of how I might explain it to someone who's wondering about all these rules. I'd say these three basic things to sum up today's sermon. One, I'd say, well, you have them too. We all do. Number two, I'd say rules come from relationship. Every relationship has rules. And then three, I would argue that relationship with Jesus is the only real freedom. His rules are actually the only real freedom that this world has to offer. And so given that, may we be a people who celebrate our freedom in Jesus. And may we help others, by the grace of God, experience that gift for themselves. Amen? Let me pray. Father God, thank you. Thank you for going so far for us. Lord, I lift up our lives to you, and I pray that we have fresh eyes for those of us that can sometimes forget that a relationship It means having freedom in you. And yes, there's constraints, but those constraints are for our good. May your ways for us taste sweeter than honey, be worth more than finest gold. May we experience you in new and awesome ways. And then may we live in such a way that doesn't make it look like we have to follow you, but we get to. And may those outsiders that see us through the straw hole, may they get a bigger picture, not of who we are, but of who you are in us, so they come to know you as well. And so, Lord, I pray that you place on the heart and mind of every person here someone, an outsider that they can be praying for. Not trying to put family rules on them, but just inviting them to experience you more. Shining for you in the moments that you give them. And may more and more people come to know you as a result for your glory. Lord, we love you, we praise you, we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.